Good morning. Welcome to Hacienda Howler here. Um, it is May 21st, approximately 10:03. Been about 2 weeks since I've been on here, since Free Comic Book Day comic book haul, and done a lot since then. So I have a haul today and some stories to tell and things like that that are comic book related, and no rant about YouTube, just a matter of fact discussion about a little um, assertive tone I took with a dealer at a flea market when he brought up the fact that he was bringing up speculation and thinking he's going to charge me like that. So here and stuff, right? First of all, the weather's been beautiful up until the last 2 or 3 days. This is probably one of those unofficial rainy Sunday videos because it has rained like a mother since Friday night. We got some cloud coverage, and I'll be outside hopefully doing some house repairs, um, like the responsible adult I am, that require me to have some sunshine at least for 48 hours to let some stuff cure and stuff like that. But that's guy talk, man. I don't. You're not here for that, right? So anyway, I hope everybody's been enjoying the mid spring here. What's going on? Hmm. Computer started to update right when I got rolling here and stuff, right? So basically, the last couple weeks, I'm slowing down a little bit. It's time to get some keys and buy one or two books back that have regrets. I have sold my VHS collection. I have sold my cassette collection and got some very good prices, which amazed me. And it's time to let some of these things go and let another generation enjoy them, right? So that money's getting put into a little piggy bank jar, and we're going to be pursuing. I'm not going to make it a big mystery. We're going to be pursuing Spider-Man number 300, a newsstand edition. The book that I bought off the rack, sold around 2007, 2008, and has regretted it because my hand was forced at the time. All right. Divorce can be a bitch. But anyway, so that's going to be the thing. I've got an old junked up car to sell, a few little things there, be adult, make sure we got everything we need. And I want to be pursuing that. Heroes Con is coming up. I have not made up my mind if I'm going there. And there are two huge flea markets within less than 2 hours away that are coming up that I have made many, many, many comic book haul videos about over the year. We have the Pulaski, Virginia Fairgrounds 2 day event coming up on June 3rd and 4th. And of course, Hillsville, the last weekend of the month, they do it on Labor Day and Memorial Day and stuff. Hey, good morning, guys. We have the Easy Comic Reader and we have John C. out there. So make sure you like the video, subscribe, hit that little bell to know when I'm doing this because, like I said, I am got three possible really good trips coming up to where if I decide to do them to where there could be some good stuff found. But that's the fun of the hunt. You never know what you're going to find. I have a few things in mind, right? So there may be some double dipping in from the last video, but it was 2 weeks ago and it's not going to hurt us a bit. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to tell you to walk. Love flea market season. I do too, man. Oh man, even going to the flea markets, it kills me when I see yard sale signs and stuff, right? I found great stuff over the years at yard sales and everything. So basically, these are a little bit about 2 weeks ago. I got these. But I want to show you if you are a Ghostbusters fan or if you are into the action figure hobby still, right? If you have an Ollie's outlet store, run, don't walk, and go get them because I can't believe I bought these, but I couldn't pass them up when I saw 3 out of 4. These were originally $20 in Walmart, and I sort of kind of wanted them, but I didn't get them. But I'm glad I waited because for $8 you can get the original Ghostbusters in these terrific sculpts and everything like that for $8 a piece, right? So I was able to get everybody but Beckman. So yeah, having a Bill Murray figure in general that actually looks like Bill Murray is actually kind of cool. So yeah, I just need to get Egon. I don't really have the burning desire to try to track it down now, but I have a feeling it's going to run across, in my line of sight at some point. So those were cool to find. And actually, I was going into Ollie's to try to find some comics because over the years since about 2018 there are many, many, many video hauls haul videos that I've done of where Ollie's bought, a whole warehouse for $13 million of DC trades and stuff, things that were out of print, and they've splashed them around over the years. And I think we're coming to the end of it here the last year, at least with my Ollies that I see here, right? So those were cool. Now, for you guys that are longtime viewers, you're going to know that over the years I mentioned Planet of the Apes. When I was a kid, Planet of the Apes was right up there with my Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like I really dug the Planet of the Apes movies and stuff, right? Um, didn't even remind the Tim Burton movie, which I knew was awful, but it was like a B movie. When I watched it, I was ended up heckling. I went to a midnight showing of Tim Burton's remake of Planet of the Apes, and about 30 minutes into it, I ended up heckling it like I was on Mystery Science Theater. I was having a good time, right? But you go back to the original, the Charlton Heston ones, and in the late 90s, they came out with some 12-inch figures. I think that's what they are, right? And I ran across them like in the oddest places while I was traveling and stuff back then. I was getting them for big discounts, but I never found a Dr. Zaius. So I'm at this flea market and I'm looking around, and they've got all these toys from the last 10 years and McDonald's toys. And you got to watch some of these people, some of these flea markets and stuff. And I look up and there's Dr. Zaius. I talked her down to $10, and I had a 20 on me. So when I handed the lady the $20, I'm sitting there waiting on my change, she starts talking to my wife, and she starts talking to me, and she keeps talking, and then she slowly puts a wad of money back in her little, I don't know what it was. What do you call those? From the 90s. The Rock and all the wrestlers used to wear them. I can't remember what they are anyway, but she had a little zipper case. I can't believe I'm going to blank on it. And I had to remind her that I gave you a 20, you owe me 10. She's like, oh, right. So yeah, that's what I got. You got to watch these people, man. They'll get you talking and distracting to get that money and stuff, right? So yeah, we have that. Also at the flea market, I was just having some fun. I got both of these for $1. I went through a stack of comics someone had, and it had some wonderful stuff in there. It had the Bruce Timm, Harley and Ivy. It had some key Wolverine books and things like that. But why did I not get them? Because they were tore all to shit. It was just sad to see those, right? So I look at the lady and I'm like, you take $1 for these, and just for the fun of it, I don't know if anybody remembers Duckman on USA, voiced by George Costanza, but I got the first issue of 3 of Duckman for you 90s kids out there. Uh, a cartoon that I still don't know who the audience was for. Silly animals with violent things going on and adult themes and dealing with the death of his wife and stuff. Then I got Felix and Friends, a 90s, who is this? Felix Comics. Never saw this, but these were the best things they had going in the shape they were in. They're like new, which blew my mind. So we got those, right? Okay. So we hit another flea market after Free Comic Book Day, right? And this is where I'm maybe double dipping, and I'm definitely leaving some things out just to spare everyone. Fanny pack. Thank you, Crack. All right, John C. loves flea markets. Comic Crack snuck in on me because I wasn't paying attention to the comments. Good morning, sir. Check out Comic Crack's channel, guys. Fanny pack. Look at that. That is exactly what it was. And Felix, yes. You got to have fun with this stuff. Right? So some of the things I picked up at a flea market, I ended up getting these for $1 a piece. And like I said, I'm kind of backing up and getting some things for me, filling in little gaps, things like that. I'm a huge Sam Keith fan, right? And I don't know if you remember my last haul. Let me look here. But in my last haul from 1987, I ended up getting some radioactive, adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. And believe it or not, they were trying to either make a TV show or a movie of this back in like around 89, 1990. But it's early Sam Keith art, before Max, before Max, before all those great things, and definitely before he made it to Marvel, where he started doing a little run in covers for Marvel Comics Presents. I look at this stuff, I see Arthur Pseudonym, I see Von Bode, I see a lot of 70s independent guys, and I did a little research on Sam Keith and started seeing a little bit of his personal life, and like, I don't want to know. Well, what I was finding, none of my business. Didn't agree with some of it, but who am I to judge? You know what I mean? Let's. I'm doing this thing where Twitter blew things up for me back in like 2010 and 11, and then really over the last couple of years of sometimes you just don't want to meet your heroes. You don't want to know too much about these guys. Okay. But anyway, I found these for $1 a piece. I grabbed them. I love Sam Keith art. He has some great stuff in here. Later on, like from 117 to 121 or 118 to 122, somewhere in that area, I think it was Larry Hama or Howard Mackey was writing, and Sam Keith was writing the anthology part of this, but they had a Venom and Wolverine story that sort of has taken off because it's an early Venom story. But for people that don't know what Marvel Comics presents, late 80s through the mid 90s, this was a weekly um, anthology series that Marvel was putting out. So you get up to 4 stories in each one. But yeah, grabbing some Sam Keith art. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm just getting this stuff. I love his Mac stuff. I've been trying to complete that. Those last issues are murder to find. Um, things like that. So, like I said, we're just having some fun here. Absolutely love this cover. You know, looks like something Ralph Bakshi would do. And then I pick up Weapon X issues whenever I see them if they're cheap and in good shape. And then I also went ahead and got Fantastic Four Annual, the Evolutionary War. If you remember in the late 90s, the summer events would be going through the annuals, right? You'd have to get Evolutionary War Part 1 would be here. It actually went to the New Mutants, and I think there was a Punisher series. It then had 2 or 3 backups talking about the High Evolutionary and things like that. Not good stuff, but very nostalgic and very fun. And my thing is I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan since I was a kid. All right, so yeah, those were fun to find. So we'll just put those up. All right, all right, you guys are right on here, man. Hey, Comic Crack, yes, Sam Crack. I might have 1 or 2 things here if I haven't shown them. If I don't show them in this video, you definitely want to check out my live video from 2 weeks ago. It's got a lot of indie stuff in it, alternative comics and stuff, right? And Paolo is here. Good morning, Paolo. We gotta get you on here at some point. Yeah, nice. Okay, guys. So I got on eBay, and one of the things I've been doing is I'm going back and I'm getting the actual books I read in high school. Peter David did a book. He actually did a series of little pulp novels, but one of them was Howling Mad, things like that. Well, John Byrne also put a book out, right? And I remember reading this, and I know I've shown this before, but making sure, that I'm doing this, I'm having the deja vu. But in the late 80s, maybe 1988, I think, I read this Fear book by John Byrne, the great John Byrne comic book master did it. But what I didn't know is that he had a second book in the 90s called Whipping Boy. And Stephen King read it and liked it. If you trust Stephen King's, opinion of things, right? So yeah, I got these off eBay for nothing, but I didn't even know John Byrne had a second novel. So when I finish up some of the stuff I'm reading now, I'll be getting around to these. And let me see here. Let's go ahead and show these. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a conversation I ended up having, which blew my mind. Okay, so I got a very nice stack of comics here. Yeah, I think these all came from the same place. Okay, so what you see here is I have this stack of comics, and it was with a person I've never dealt with in comics before, right? And he's just in the flea market, nice looking guy, maybe in his early 30s and stuff. Very nice to us, and he was very nice to our wife, but he also got into a little bit of conspiracy theory, right? So when I found his booth and he had some great stuff on the wall, his little section of this flea market was packed tight. You had 2 rows just enough to where you could turn around and go through boxes and stuff. He didn't have anything marked as price. So right off the bat, before I started digging, I wanted to know if this is some guy that gets on eBay or something and tries to decide his prices when you do the work for him and stuff. And he's like, no, I'm pretty much up on what's going on there with this stuff. And I don't know how he worded it, but he let me know that he keeps up with it through YouTube channels. And all of a sudden, I was very assertive. I got businesslike. I was not triggered. I was not rude. I was just very direct. And I'm like, are you talking about channels like Comic Tom and Jim and Collectibles and Swaggle House and whatever else is out there? And I just looked at him. He didn't really answer me. I'm like, well, I'm going to let you know that if you are pricing your books by watching their channels, I'm just going to kind of move on. It's time to draw a line in the sand with what I'm going to spend, what I'm looking for, what time I'm going to spend doing this when I can just move on to another vendor. And at the same time, I don't want to try to haggle these guys down to where they don't make any money. You know what I mean? I just want it to be fair. And you could tell he got eyes got really big, and I explained to him why I don't agree with the speculation channels. There's room for them. Speculation is part of the hobby, but I'm also saying that the market doesn't move that way. There are trendy books, and they also have books they want to sell, and they kind of manipulate the market a little bit with their 10,000 to 20,000 viewers on their speculation channels. Yet when they make videos that have nothing to do with speculation, they're lucky to break 700 to 1,000 videos. And I was like, do we have an understanding? And and the guy was like, yeah, but I still kind of know what some keys are and stuff. I'm like, that's all I'm saying, man. Let's make a good deal and have it be fair. After that, as I'm digging through the boxes, my wife walks up after she's already looked at a few things. He has a nice conversation with her. And then it kind of got a little weird because when he found out that she's a nurse, he started talking about the Germans in the 1940s coming over and doing things with making deals with American healthcare and stuff. And he's seen the documentation. It got a little bit weird with conspiracy theory, one I've never really heard before, and we just went through it. So I got my stack, made the deal, and walked on. Now, due to the guy being very cool and just at least listening to me, not blowing me off, not being afraid to say anything. There was no reason I wasn't coming off like this was going to be a confrontation. I didn't haggle the guy that much. I'll go ahead and tell you, I gave the guy $30 when I think all of this should have been about 20. But there you go. So with that said, hey, good morning. We got Sumerian here. We have JLS Comics here. Good morning, guys. The Great Graphic Man, part of the Fantastic Four annual time was into the regular series is wonky kind of a way. I bound them in volumes and it's tricky. Oh, okay. Yeah, working the annuals into chronological stories of Fantastic Four. I can see that. So I got some great stuff off of the guy, right? Which was fun, right? So, like I said, about $30 for this, and there's some great stuff in here, right? So, I always grab from Hell Books because I had access regularly in the early 90s to comic book shops finally. Yet I never saw these. These came out sporadically, right? And of course, we have issue, what do we got here? Volume 4, Volume 3. I think there's a 5 in here somewhere. But yeah, I grab these whenever I can. I had the bound edition, the movie with Johnny Depp that came out, kind of like wiped its hand across the series, and you got the smell of what Alan Moore was doing here. But if I remember right, Alan Moore actually spent about 5 years studying the case of Jack the Ripper, like intricately, and he actually gives you citations and notes in the back where he fills all of this up, where he thinks he figured out who Jack the Ripper was, and it's no big mystery right off the bat. He doesn't do it like a mystery. He lets you know who it is and shows you things. He gets a little out there with some things, right? Gets into a lot of the political Freemasons and ties all sorts of things that was going in. Right, here's volume 3, which is a huge volume. But I love these, and I got these cheap. There'll probably be another one. And then I saw these and I had to get them because I keep finding beat up copies of these. And it kills me because I was actually collecting the series when it came out, right? I was a DC nut more than anything, right? But I finally got a very nice newsstand copy. That makes a difference to people. A newsstand copy of Green Lantern 201, A Minor Key, first Kilowog. Kilowog apparently has a cult following and things. Also, the first time that the Guardians had left the Green Lanterns to their own, you know, out on their own after they took off with some glamazons and stuff. Just a whole big thing, right? But anyway, it was a fun series. I found it got a great deal on it. I will pick this book up all day long. This was Guy Gardner, debuting as an actual Green Lantern. If you're into the lore, if you're into the Keith Giffen, DeMontes, McGuire, Green, Justice League series, Guy Gardner really kind of took off there for a little bit, especially getting punched by Captain America, by Batman, the infamous one punch fight. And then number 200, sorry, these aren't in order, but these are beautiful brand new copies. Now, I pulled this one out last night, started reading it to kind of go through. It still smells exactly like a brand new comic when it came out. This is 1986. Okay. Now, why did I get those? Because I was collecting the series at the time, and it was those 3 year issues that disappeared from the stands. And then after I found some of the Crisis on Infinite Earths with the Guy Gardner debut a few years ago at the Pulaski Flea Market. I talked about, but I'll grab those all day long, and they were super cheap, right? And this was just amazing. Sometimes you just kind of put out what you're looking for, and then it comes across you. If you have a little bit of patience and stuff, right? But I was there when comic scene was big. I want to be showing you some of those and stuff. And something about the first, I don't know what it is, 20 issues of Wizard. I don't know if it's some comic book YouTube channel or nostalgia. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where this is coming from, but there's, I don't know, about the first 20 issues of Wizard magazine that started around 90 or 91, even the Ash Can, they're taking off. There's people at these flea markets looking for it. When I found these, I had another guy who had a booth across from the dude sitting there telling me, well, I just sold a number one of those. So I looked it up, and the number one was like $325 or something. Grain of salt. It, might have, I don't know, fluctuated. So I was like, I've got a huge Wizard collection, but those first issues and stuff like that, they weren't really around to where you could find them. But anyway, I found some still sealed, and I think I got these were the things I didn't haggle the guy down. These were $5 a piece, okay. But I've got the gatefold Valiant number 17 with Wizards, right? I really want this. I'm a Wizard nut. The Jim Shooter years, you know, uh, that's Valiant to me. Those are the ones I want, right? So this is a great David Lapham cover. I recently saw somebody do a great video on things like stray bullets and stuff, but they didn't realize that David Lapham had a career before Stray Bullets. Sometimes YouTube bothers me. And then this was the one where I actually heard about Wizard for the first time, number 10, because Rob Liefeld came up. Wizard had been putting, as you see, DC and Marvel characters and whatnot on their covers. I think they had a Wet Works before this one with Will Portatio, the infamous Wet Works that when the Image launched, it would be years before we saw it. But this is the one where Marvel was like, hey, hey, hey now, because they mixed characters, right? I think this was the one. They have Cable with Shaft from Youngblood. I swear in my memory, maybe it's a Mandela effect or maybe I'm just wrong, but it seems like it was when the first time they mixed a DC and a Marvel character on the cover. Marvel had a conniption, but I don't remember. But anyway, for all I know, that could have just been hype at the time, manufactured hype to get the book notes. But this is when I started hearing about Wizards. And of course, I had a friend who was in comics who, oh no, internet went down. Am I there, guys? I'm showing no internet. Okay, until that gets done. Hey, I like the theory that Jack the Ripper is H.H. Holmes. Oh, I could talk about H.H. Holmes all day long, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I totally get how people want to mix those two. That would be interesting if that's what would happen. Hey, Simply Incredible podcast. Good to see you, Daryl. Love Wizards. Slowly been getting them again. Paulo Costa, Wizard only gets relevant after Image begins, but I only like Wizard after the market crash which was even later. I'm looked up. I think I was in that golden age of Wizard where they had a little bit of money coming in. They were getting successful, and they had all their movies and their action figures and their trades and their contest of their. Oh man, let me drink my coffee here. Hold on. They had their cosplay contest going on, and they had all the custom made action figures in. And then they reached a point where they got greedy and they came out with Inquest, which was about trading cards like Magic and things like. And I know people know what I'm talking about them. And then they had like Toy Fair. I think when they branched out and did more magazines, that's when Wizard slowly was starting to have its downfall. Man, that's awesome. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I think my internet went out for a minute because I just got a ton of comments here to come in. All right, Sumerian. Wow, can't seem to find the first Kilowog in any comic book shop for a decent price, and eBay is at least $30 to beat up. Great find. Is it in decent shape? These things are mint. When I open them up, they smell like they like you bought them right off the rack. I mean, I don't know how people keep comics in that great a shape. I'll see everybody saying hello. All right, Gray Man is here as well. Check out Gray Man's channel. All right, great to see everybody. Okay, where was I here? I got on my little rant here and stuff, right? Okay, here's number 5 of From Hell. Yeah, we get the point. Moving on. What am I doing with these? Okay, great stuff, right? Now, this was sad, right? When I show you these two, sometimes every now and then it happens. You get to the end of the day, you get into a rush, you want to go home, or you're just tired. It happens, man. It happens. Let me see where the other one is. There's 2 of them like this to tell this sad, sad story. Okay. First of all, I found 3 Star Wars tales, right? There's not a lot of Star Wars comics I'm really wanting. There's a great appreciation for the Dark Horse stuff that's coming out. But around 2000 and on up, they came out with another anthology series that these used to be at the grocery store across the road from where I lived at the time. But it was hit or miss trying to get them, right? And they had 2 covers apiece, but this is Star Wars tales, right? A lot of good stuff in this. I was really skeptical. I still have like this purist thing of like if George Lucas didn't write it, it's not Star Wars and stuff, and I've let that go, right? Simply because I read one that was they mixed where Sam Jackson was Mace Windu and a few things. They had a diner scene where it was Star Wars mixed with Pulp Fiction, and I thought it was hilarious. And then I found Tag and Bink are dead in a few things, and I kind of let go. And I'm like, this is just for fun, right? So I found 3 issues of this, and I got 3 for $5, and that was amazing, right? So this one was in all right shape. And then I smelled the smell when I got home, right? And what I figured out is the reason these were so cheap, that one survived somehow. I've already got a piece of dryer sheet in it for this smell I'm going to tell you about. I put it in the back of the bag. I'm just going to let it do its thing to get rid of this odor. But what I figured out is somebody had a fireplace or a wood burning stove at the home, and they got a box of comics a little bit too close to it, because when I went to take the bag out, the bag was crisp. I finally saw a brown line going down and this was 2 of them. And what happened, they're both here. And what happened is they had fused, the plastic had melted, they had fused to the comic book board. And when I pulled them out, I used a hair dryer. I tried everything I knew to do. It was a lost cause, but they were stuck to it, and they smell like a wood burning stove. This smells like a campfire, right? And actually, to tell you the truth, that wood smell, I think they were burning oak. So, I don't know, right? So this is a number 4 is a key if you're into Star Wars. Number 6, I have another copy of this to begin with. I also have another copy of this one, but this one has a different cover, and there was no saving them. So I don't know. Readers' copies, maybe I'll do some kind of craft with them where I tear them apart. I don't know, but it happens, right? It happens. I've had a good run. Things like that happen. It has to be done. What is this? Take 2 seconds to wish my kidney transplant a happy 12th birthday. Well, that deserves more than 2 seconds there. Simply Incredible Podcast. Congratulations. Wow. That is fantastic. I'm kind of speechless there. Man, fantastic. Glad you're still with us. Star Wars Tales 19 is great. Han crashes on Earth and involves Indiana Jones and a Sasquatch in the story. Got it. Love it. That's what I mean. That was some fun. I'm glad I was able to let go to be able to enjoy the stories like that. It's fantastic. And I even pointed out to people in the 80s and in the 90s. I've always pointed out to get people thinking that I was like, Chewbacca is just a Bigfoot running around. It's great. Now I was very happy to find these things. Right. I love old comic scene. I mean, I love my Wizards, but comic scene was the one where you go to the grocery store. You never knew when it was coming out, and it was the only way to really get comic book news. You guys that are in the comment section, I'm pretty sure will know what I'm talking about. Pre-internet, it was more of the hobby was much more personal and isolated. You rarely, or no, I don't think rarely is the right word, depending on where you lived. I'm in a small town. I know 3 or 4 other people that, collect comics, but whatever. My brother would come down every other weekend. We'd be able to talk comics and stuff, right? But found some great comic scenes. And this is from 1983. Apparently, there's 2 volumes of Comic Scene, early 80s, but I think this is from 83. And I just went through this, and it's announcing Marvel Man, Miracle Man, when he was still called Marvel Man. Judge Dredd, the way they're talking, is about to hit America and things like that. I didn't hear about Judge Dredd until Anthrax around 85, 86, probably 86. Things like that. Going through this, it was incredibly nostalgic and stuff. But yeah, Comic Scene is the one where I'm like, yeah, that's the one. So I found that one from 83. And these are going up until I think the 90s, 1990 and 94. These have a little bit of, they're in beautiful shape, yet there's a little bit of a mildew smell. So I've already got my dryer sheets. Over time, that will help. But it's kind of funny with the atrocious Little Mermaid that's coming out. I thought it was funny to find one. And what is so wild is one of these, oh my God, was it Russ Heath? I'm gonna have to go through these. I meant to take a picture and put it on Instagram, but apparently, Comic Scene a few issues before one of these, they did an article about, I think it was Steve Rude, and I think it was Russ Heath or somebody. I'm gonna have to look at it and stuff, right? But somebody came on there and they wrote into Comic Scene, some comic book legend wrote into Comic Book Scene and was saying this man is great. It's nice to see somebody actually have the talent to do comics and stuff like that. Somebody was getting praised. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's wild. So I'll be I'm Howler Mouse on Instagram, but when I go through these, I'll be taking a picture of that letter in the letter column if it's there. When I get these things in old comics, I read everything. I read all the editorials. Some of the DC ones by Dick Giordano are kind of hard to get through because they're really big and wordy and stuff. And anyway, things like that. I read the letter columns. I even look at some of the ads and stuff like that. I really get into them. And then this one was a great to find because I'm one of the few, I think it's grown over the time, but I was there when the Shadow movie came out. And one of the problems with some projects that came out after 1989 and 1992 is it was great that the door was open. But if you go back and look at Dick Tracy with Warren Beatty, and you look at the Shadow movie that came out years later and stuff, even the Fantastic Four Corman movie that the people making it took serious when it was just needed to keep the license and things like that. There's a huge Tim Burton influence on them when they didn't need it, right? Uh, and of course, I'm looking back with 2020 vision. You can agree with me, disagree with me. I think it's a great topic. I'm not trying to be right, but I think the movie that broke that spell was one of 2 movies, and I'm going to give one more credit than the other, right? But The Rocketeer came out in 1990, and I'm wondering if that movie was already in progress before or during, the Tim Burton movie Batman was released, right? But the one that really broke the mold, that got away from all that, it was still dark in its own way and everything, but it is of its era, and we love it in this house. And it's just being real. It's being objective. Is the Crow movie of '94? I think that broke the mold of trying to make future movies more than anything, right? Anyway, that's a whole other video that I just thought of I could probably do. I would love to have some people come on a panel and we can talk about breaking the Tim Burton. Did Tim Burton's Batman influence more movies than it should have? Or did the studios wanted to look Tim Burton-like and stuff, right? But those are great to find, man. There's some great stuff in those comic scenes. I would love to do videos if anybody would be interested where I just flip through the panels and we just go on a nostalgic tour, That would be fantastic. Hey, why not Art? What is up, brother? Oh, hold on. Let me do this in order here. Yep, comic scene seems so long ago. Oh, why not Art, man? Everybody, OG comic book YouTuber right there, guys. OG comic book YouTuber. Great to see you. GLS Comics. I just had Comic Scene 6 in my last video about Nth Man, the one with the Bob Kane Batman cover. You know what? YouTube has been doing things off and on for years where I'm subscribed to people and then I'm not. And I've had so many comic book channels and so many comic book videos that I've talked to going way back that people come and go to a point to where it's just hard to keep up. I'm gonna go back and make sure I am LS Comics. You should too. And I need to see this because Nth Man is something that there's a lot of low hanging fruit when it comes to doing comic book videos and stuff. Alan Moore, Watchmen, Dark Knights, we know the low hanging fruit. you do something about Nth Man, that should pique people's interest and stuff, or obscure, man. That was good stuff. And the great Gore Vidal is here. Good morning, Gore. The comic scene issue Superman was excellent. I bought it as a kid and ordered some of the Warrior magazines, and I think Judge Dredd, which appeared in it. Fantastic. I don't think I've even registered that you could order some of this stuff out of Comic Scene. I'm going to kick myself, but it would have been in the later '80s. I think my first, I can easily find when I bought my first Comic Scene because I still have it. They had a sister magazine that came out sporadically, and not enough to where I can precisely talk about it, in depth or anything like that. But it had Mobius art in it, where he took on Iron Man and some superheroes. It had a huge Judge Dredd cover. I'm trying to think what it was called, but it was like posters and things, and I never took the posters out and stuff. Right. Let me get some coffee. I'm still not awake, guys, so I'm glad we're doing this well. I still have some comics to show. Let me get through these. Last night I reread Chakins the Shadow miniseries. Excellent stuff. I have it on the shelf in a trade. I've got a little box of pulp where I've been reorganizing for months my comic book room. I've got my pulp stuff together. You too, Tony. Yes. Okay. Now let's move on, right? So I've talked about the rants. I've talked about stuff like this, and I may have shown that I have, who knows, right? But I need 2 more issues of this, right? But there's definitely things where I can look back on it and I know exactly when I became a fan of it, and I know exactly why I'm a fan of it. There's things when I was a kid. I lived in an era as a young kid to where I can remember the world pre Star Wars and after Star Wars. I think that's something where it transcends pop culture, right? And I remember watching Wizards, Ralph Bakshi cartoons with Von Bode art in it, and finding out Mike Plug and all these comic book guys were working on all these movies as I was growing up later on. Mike Plug worked on Dark Crystal, Steranko was in Indiana Jones, things like that, right? So when I find these things, I absolutely love them. And but I now have, in the early '90s, Tundra came out with, I think it was his son, Von Bode's son, Mark Bode, took over. The original Bode passed away in 1975, but we have Cobalt 60. And one of the things that amazes me about this post-apocalyptic book, and if I'm going by memory here, and I believe I'm right, is that Von Bode went to school, elementary school in the 50s, early 60s, and things like that. And this was something he was drawing and doodling in his notebooks. The man was ahead of his time, hugely influential and stuff, right? So I need 2 more issues of this. I think I have all but 1 issue. I have 2 issues of Epic Illustrated that I need to get. Other than that, there's a huge Von Bode Cobalt 60 storyline going through it and this post apocalyptic stuff. And be warned, even though it's cartoony and stuff, it has boobies. And if you haven't checked out things like Cheech Wizard and stuff like that, it's a bit hippie-ish, but at the same time, it is of its era. And it's kind of interesting to see what was going on at the time. This is my second one of this. This is a Neil Adams variant cover of All Star Superman by Grant Morrison. Second one I found for cheap, and this is the one that's sort of collectible. If you follow, a couple months ago, James Gunn posted some pictures on Twitter of him writing the Superman Legacy script for the new movie, and he had like an omnibus or something of All Star Superman right beside of him, so everybody went nuts, for a little bit. Now, the thing about comics is when you've done comics for a long time, and you guys let me know if you agree with me or not, if this has happened to you, because in my mind, it happens to everybody. But basically, there are certain stories you'll read and you're convinced, like, oh, this was in this Secret Origins annual, or this was in this Teen Titans annual, right? And it's a Teen Titans story. And when I finally tracked down one of the books, or I dug through the box to find it, I'm like, it's not in here. And I'm like, I know there's a Teen Titans story that I read that was supposed to be in this, right? And then all of a sudden, you're just flipping through some comic books and you see some go-go chicks thinking, oh, could that be original go-go chick book kind of in the masses and stuff? And they pull it up and you see that it's an annual, and it all comes back to you. It turns out it's a Teen Titans story that you do remember reading. And the reason you don't have it is because this was in your brother's comics. He collected this book. So my brother collected Hawk and Dove. My brother became a fan of Hawk and Dove from that first miniseries around '88 with Rob Liefeld art, Carl Kessel inks, before Rob ended up, popping up over at Marvel and stuff. He did a Hawk and Dove miniseries. They got an ongoing series with the same writers, and in their annual number 3, they reformed the Teen Titans West. So this is why it wasn't in my collection. I wasn't crazy and things like that, but I don't know if that you follow what I'm saying. You read a story, but you don't know where. That's probably the time that happened to me. So yeah, it turns out I love the story. I never bought it. It was in my brother's collection. This is going back in Titans box and stuff, right? The reason I was a fan of this is they did I can't remember if it was a Teen Titans annual or a Secret Origins annual. I think it was a Secret Origins #3 of the Titans, and George Perez wrote it, but he also did some character designs. He turned the Batgirl from the Titans West in the '70s into Flamebird. He gave Golden Eagle, who was like Peter Parker meets Hawkman, he gave him a new design and things like that. Those Teen Titans book of the late '70s, 48 to 50, were some of the first ones I read of the Teen Titans, along with going back to the early '70s, things like that. But I was so glad to find that because I was like, I know there's a story out there. That's enough of that. Why not? I'd love to see my pulp collection. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. It's about a short box full. It's a bunch of Flash Gordon, Shadow, a few Doc Savage. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. To me, it's a very small part of my collection, which I wish was bigger. I put all my Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff in there also. Sumerian love reading the entire old comics. Have great memories reading Jeanette Kahn published. Yeah, yes. He's talking about the editorials and stuff. Jeanette Kahn was a force that makes the last. Hearing things that's been going on in comics and accusations going back to 2015. I'm like, Jeanette Kahn ran DC Comics from the '70s. I'm like, you're full of crap, guys. Jeanette Kahn publishers, Wagner, Talking Mage, and others seems there was so much more to enjoy in the books back then. And I'm about to get to that here in a minute. We're on the same wavelength there, Sumerian. Von Bode was, like Wally Wood and Richard Corbin, the author trapped in a world without comic book publishers interested in functioning like book publishers. See, and I hear things like this, and I love these stories. I love underdog stories, or however you look at it. But to me, it's almost like these guys are outlaws in the industry. You know what I mean? It's real easy to romanticize them and forget that these guys kept going, kept publishing art, kept creating, and nobody wanted it, and they kept going. You know what I mean? And that's oversimplifying it, man. Pal, we need to get you on here, and that'd be like one of the great things to talk about. I think, or that'd be awesome. Hopefully in the next month or two, I'm going to be able to have a little bit more room, more time, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I pick these up all the time. If you saw a haul I did from an auction a few months ago where one of my friends had passed away, I ended up getting a huge run of his Flash Gordon stuff, right? So whenever I see Flash Gordon, guys, I've told the story many times before. There's people probably been around, but in 1980, nobody, as kids, none of us knew there was another Star Wars movie coming out. Okay, we saw Star Wars, we didn't know there was another one coming, and all of a sudden you start hearing about the Empire Strikes Back, and you just have no idea. You cannot imagine what you're going to see. There was something finally. As a kid, that you just could not picture what you were going to see. You knew you were going to see something you had never seen before, right? Acting like we're all worldly when we're like 7 years old, right? So the stepdad, who I told you was just not a nice guy, I was like, let's go see. I want to go see Empire Strikes Back, and he was like, no, he was not going to take me. A couple months go by. I'm sitting in the living room. He's got a bunch of his buddies in the kitchen, and I hear ha ha ha, a bunch of laughing. Then I realize what they're talking about, and I hear my stepdad go, "Oh man, Empire Strikes Back was so badass," and we locked eyes. And I saw shame for once come over the man's eyes, right? So I remembered that. And I don't know if it was the next day, I don't know if it was the next weekend, but I would go through the couches, and I would go through the laundry and stuff, and I would get changed and everything like that. So at 7 years old, I found one of my buddies outside, and I'm like, let's go to the movies. And we snuck out of the trailer park, and we walked down to the railroad tracks, and we walked our way to the mall. And over the years, I said that was like a 5-6 mile trip. Well, I recently returned to my hometown a couple years. Well, recently, I'm there a lot more now. But I went down there and I measured it, so it was actually 3 to 4 miles, and all that stuff. But on a Sunday, we snuck down to the movies and we ended up seeing the Flash Gordon movie. So Flash Gordon, the Flash Sam Jones Flash Gordon movie was my Empire. It would be about 5 or 6 years later before I got to see Empire Strikes Back. To make up for this, though, in 1983, my mom, my sister, and I were living with her mom, my grandmother. They were the stepdad and the mom split up for a while, and all I know is I came home one day and told I couldn't go outside and ride my bike. And I was like, why? Why? I was like, all like, you gotta be kidding me. I got stuff to do. And she surprised me. She went and picked my brother up from his grandmother's, picked me up, and we went and waited in line for 5 hours at the mall to watch the Return of the Jedi. And it was one of the greatest things ever. So kudos to the mom for, I don't know if she remembered the Empire Strikes Back thing, but the parents never knew I snuck off and snuck off to the movies at 7 years old with my friends to see Flash Gordon. Became a man that day, is how I felt. Anyway, moving on here. But when it comes to some books, now, Paolo, I think it was a Cabinet of Chaos show. I could be wrong, but I heard people talking about Mr. X. Now, talked about comics for years. I've done this forever. I've talked about it stuff. I've hearkened that there's always stuff out there. I love watching videos to find things and stuff. And it turns out I was the only guy that had never heard of Mr. X. So I've been picking these up as they go along. And apparently, it had a few publishers. I now have the first appearance from Veritalk Comics. I have some trades. I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little run here and there. And it seems like I think it was the 2000s, the Dark Horse started doing some of them. And this coloring is not going to show up right, but it's a Will Eisner inspired cover. Mr. X is actually standing underneath a street sign that says Eisner Avenue. And if you know the spirit. But anyway, this is number 3 of Eviction. And what was wild is I just grabbed this because it was an Eisner inspired cover. Turns out this is the 3rd issue of the miniseries I needed, right? Very interesting stuff out there. There we go. Yeah, Paolo remembers. Thank you, Paolo, man. Stuff like that drives me nuts sometimes. What we got here, JLS Comics, great shirt, by the way. There's nothing like getting out of nature and away from civilization. Yes, thank you. The shirt says I'm done peopling, if that makes any sense. All right. See, this is what I love, man. Read the comments if they pop back up in the rerun. Palo, JLS, everybody's giving great information, man. That's one of the reasons I like doing this, right? So usually there's an author that sort of will curse a live show or a video or something. You bring him up, and this author has a section of his work that I love. I'll defend. I'm like, why does he not do more of this? But at the same time, I will sit there and tell you, as long as other people, that the rest of his stuff is crap. But I'm going to just go ahead and get all of the Powers books, if you will, right? I'm so close to having them all the volumes, all the publishers, Image, and what is this, Icon through Marvel and whatever else he's done and stuff, 4 or 5 volumes of this and everything like that. But he mixes crime and detectives with superheroes. They even had a PlayStation channel where you could watch the TV show they made of this and stuff like that. But when it comes to Brian Michael Bendis, the man's a crime writer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and take shots. You know what I mean? For this moment and stuff like that. But his power stuff is solid when you sit down. But the problem is you have to read all of it at once, if that makes any sense. Month to month has killed me with everything like that. He also harkens back a little bit to certain things. There's certain threads in the book that you're just like, just let go and let's move forward with stuff, right? But anyway, Powers Bureau. You had Powers from Image. You had, I don't know, 2 volumes there. It's very confusing where it comes and goes. But Avon Oming and Bendis, Christian Walker, and all that stuff. I really enjoy these. Mixing superheroes with Law and Order, basically, detectives and everything, with their little soap operas in between. Horrific stuff happens with this Bruce Timm-like cartoony style. A lot of contradictions in there and stuff, right? So if there's any works that I'm saying you should get with Bendis, I think the only thing you really need to get is his crime stuff. Seriously, what, Torso and Powers? The guy supposedly actually drove around with detectives to learn how they talk and things to make to get the dialogue right and stuff, right? Whether that's true or not, we don't know. You know, writers' jobs are to lie to you, and the best ones do it well to where you don't even question it and stuff, right? Paulo Costa. I tried Mr. X, but I just couldn't get into it. Maybe a retry is in order. I think it's a very like it's like Bean World. Um, I think you're either going to get it or you're not. My thing is I'm curious, right? I'm also the guy that keeps reading Grendel trying to get it. You know, I ended up getting a. I've accumulated quite a bit of Grendel books trying to get into it to see what people are seeing and stuff. You know, there's just enough to hook me. Mr. X is sort of the same way, man. Mr. X to me, when I read Mr. X, it's like you are delving into it's just an alternative book that's different. And I think what hooks me is I don't know where it's going. You know what I mean? That's a really good feeling. It doesn't feel predictable, but at the same time, it doesn't blow you away. It's very unique, a very unique read. Gore Vidal is right on top of it. Mr. X remains a wonderfully unusual comic. Unusual could be the word. That may be what I'm looking for. The Ornella Muta scenes and Flash Gordon. Oh, sorry, that's the actress. Yeah, anyway, I butchered that name. Sorry. And Flash Gordon were some of the earliest erotic scenes I'd seen in theater before I understood what eroticism was. Loved it. I mean, that Flash Gordon movie is the most satisfying movie when I sit down and to watch. I think it's a fantastic movie. It's got its own identity, its own scene. The only thing that really confused me was the Queen soundtrack because I knew Queen, you know, it was played in the house and stuff. I love the and I love the soundtrack now. To move back up there, I love the Flash Gordon movie. I preferred it over Star Wars when I was a kid. I have a whole Star Wars DVD collection over here. The original movie, the Filmation show. I have the serials saved on a playlist somewhere. Plenty of cool sci-fi schlock back then. I had a particular fondness for the Buck Rogers TV series. I also remember the Ice Pirates. I love Ice Pirates. I still will watch Ice Pirates when I can find it somewhere. Which to me is the best Star Wars movie without being one. Ice Pirates is fantastic. You know, space herpes. You know, come on now. Mr. X is definitely an acquired taste. Absolutely. You mean you didn't like Riri Williams and the aging of John Kent? Oh, yes, I absolutely hated those. I also hate one of the things with Bendis that I actually kind of gave up even trying to check out any of his Marvel stuff is you know, I would randomly either read you can read I would read it in the shop because it took 30 seconds to read a Bendis comic, right? But it was this new Avengers issue or something like that where Sentry killed the Molecule Man by tearing him in half. And I'm like, what? Like he just it was just ridiculous. Here we go. There are mysteries in Grendel and Mixture X that were never explained, which is why it remains intriguing to me over the decades. Oh, there we go. I got you. I got it. Okay. How's your fanzine coming along? I have one coming out in the fall, monster related. When the fanzine didn't really go anywhere, to be honest, but it's wild you're saying that, Tony, because in the last 2 3 months here, I've been reorganizing books and getting long, short boxes and stuff. And I've actually got a box of stuff that I had prepared for the fanzine. Maybe it needs to get back on track. Now, with your fanzine, why not? You know, why not art? Get a hold of me on Instagram when you got it going, and I'll promote it on the channel or something, man. Yeah, I want one. Um, yeah, Gray Man. I recall the Ice Pirates being a fun movie, but I forgot about it. Oh man, yeah, there's some good stuff there. Right now, back to the comics and stuff, right, guys? Because I got things to do today, but this is fun. I'm having a good time. You dig through boxes at flea markets and stuff, and sometimes you'll find things that even the dealer doesn't know that's there because it's smushed other places, and you just get it thrown in there. You know what I mean? Like, just throw this in, it's beat up and stuff. But I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fan. I also love these DC Digest from back in the day. I ran across a box that were $15 a piece. And you talk about having a feeling of like, I would love to grab that box and go. My lighting messed up and run with it, you know. But you know, we would never do that, right? But I found this old beat up DC Blue Ribbon Digest number 57 with a great Pat Broderick cover, and of course it's beat up, and it's got stories by Jerry Siegel writing Legion of Superheroes from 64 to 65. Now, here's what's wild about this. I didn't know there was a Bizarro Legion of Superheroes and stuff, right? It also has the first appearance of the Legion flight ring in these stories, right? They reprint things from 64. The credits are in there. You can tell a little bit this is after Marvel was taken off because this is when they started putting in the people who were making the comics in there. They may have done that sporadically. I don't know. I don't remember. I used to know this a little bit better. But anyway, but I got to tell you, I love Silver Age Legion stories. I love all this stuff. I've got I think I got like a long box, maybe two long boxes of Legion of Superheroes. I'm looking at a stack over here, Superboy and the Legion. I don't know. I've got a ton of Legion stuff. It was like the first Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, like 255 or something, was like the first comic book I bought with my money, and I still have it. So I've always been a Legion fan, right? But this apparently is an era of the Legion where I really didn't like these stories. Apparently, 1964 was just not for me. You know, they mixed them with Lex Luthor meets the Legion of Superheroes, the Revolt of the Girl Legionnaires. The Lone Wolf Legionnaire was actually all right. That was Timberwolf before he was called Timberwolf. The Lad Who Wrecked the Legion, the Bizarro Legion, the Origin and Powers of the. I think my problem is that they were doing too many ties to the 20th century that made no sense. Why would the Legion of Superheroes fight Lex Luthor? It would have to be a better story than that. But the first one, there's only two in here I like. The Legion of Super Outlaws brings us it's a reprint of the Heroes of Lalore, um, which if you're a Legion fan, it harkens back to Keith Giffen and Paul Levitt's kind of harken back stuff, right? Colossal Boy and Duplicate Boy fighting over Shrinking Violet again. 20 years later was fantastic. But that's enough of that. I know there may not be a lot of fans there. So moving on here, right? So I found these for a steal. I wonder if I still have the price tag of a piece, but I got it with 2 for $5. But I have never seen Phantom Stranger comics this pristine. Are flawless. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? And I love my Bronze Age horror. I just love that stuff. I love when horror, you get to feel that horror was coming back. There's some EC ties there, you know what I mean? EC influence coming back. But, when it comes to DC, a lot of their best stuff was their horror books and not their superhero stuff, if that makes any sense, right? Some of their sci-fi stuff, right? So we got some 36 and 37 of some great Jim Aparo Phantom Stranger books and stuff, right? Absolutely love these. Um, and then I've shown this before, but I actually got to go read it and stuff. And this is what I'm talking about with my pulps. Weird Worlds #1 that I got on Free Comic Book Day for a steal. Pristine condition, black cover. These hold up. There's some great Al Weiss art, Lin Win writing the stories, doing adaptations of Edgar Rice Burroughs and stuff. This is the stuff I love, man. It just blows my mind that I can run across this stuff and have it just come in my line of sight. All right, and I think we're down to, let me look here. I got 3 more things to show here. Oh, anytime, Tony, man. Yeah, anytime. I got a bunch of digests. Okay, Active Cons recently, but I'm not sure if my eyes will take the strain. I got you. I got you. I grew up reading digests. They're not hard to read. Mini comics, on the other hand. Here we go. Legion forever. Yes, long live the Legion. Appreciate it. All right, Rob Ripa. Great to see you, brother. Sorry to get off the subject, but ICP coming back to Blue Ridge. But oh man, they're back. Yeah, I don't know if we're going back to the Great Blue Ridge Festival. I would love to go back. They have Megadeth here, Sumerian. Awesome, man. Uh, yeah, there's a metal festival that goes on about 3 or 4 hours away from us. We went to last year, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. I'll tell my wife. I'll update my wife. Yeah, she's a great Insane Clown Posse fan. There's a collection of the DC John Carter, but not the DC Tarzan. Yeah, I've kind of wondered about that myself. Love the Phantom Stranger, Jim Aparo goodness. Love the ads with Dead Man, the Creeper, Swamp Thing, and Phantom Stranger drama Aparo. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff, right? So we've been talking about 80s comics as weaved in here and alternative comics have weaved in here. And then there's that thrill of the hunt and stuff, right? In the 80s, I would see ads for some of this stuff, right? Certain books you could not find on the news grocery store, your spinner rack at your dollar, at your at the drugstore and all that stuff, right? And then you would hear about these things, right? And then you would hear some of the older people that you ran across, and as you got older and stuff, fondly remembering this stuff, right? And you had things like John Sable, and of course, like I said, Mage, Grendel, and then you had Grimjack, right? I've got about 4 or 5 issues of Grimjack, right? But this is apparently Dark Horse. Is it Dark Horse? I thought it was Dark Horse. Could be wrong, but Comic Mix. But apparently started in 2017, and I don't know when it ended, but I think 5 omnibuy came out of Grimjack. Now I found this. This was a fantastic find. I did not buy this 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was at this flea market, but when we went back yesterday, it was exactly, I made a beeline to it because I forgot to go back and buy it, right? But this is from 2017, $60 omnibus trade, $5, right? Thing is in phenomenal condition. I mean, it's got shelfware and stuff on it. And this particular volume reprints, I think, issues 31 through 54. This covers 1987 to 1989 of Grimjack. And now I finally get to sit down and I read the first issue in this, and it is phenomenal. This is phenomenal, man. You talk about, I don't know, I'm not really even mad missing out on this when it came out in the 80s with what I've already read in here. Um, you know, Now I'm thinking of all these other books I heard about in the 80s I never got to touch, like Nexus and stuff, right? It's all coming back. But it's great to be able to go back and discover this stuff for the first time for myself and have it in bulk. I don't have to wait years wondering where this is going. I don't have to worry about a little alternate, a little alternative book, when it's going to get canceled before they finish and things like that. Is it going to get delayed and stuff, right? But the first issue, you find out Grimjack. I get the concept. Grimjack lives in a city, a town where a lot of dimensions and it's sort of like a nexus of roads where a lot of different cities from other dimensions sort of phase in and out and stuff. So you have this big cast of characters, and you can have all kinds of tongue-in-cheek guest stars in there and stuff from other dimensions and stuff. But it starts out, a little bit grim and gritty. Very. Actually, I would say it was a little bit Wolverine-like in attitude. And I was like, "Oh my God, did Frank Miller read this? Because this looks like the opening of Sin City a little bit, But anyway, but it turns out Grimjack has a girlfriend who's a ghost from another dimension, and they can't sleep together, yet they lay together, and he can't stand that she won't tell him who she really is and things like that. Now, I'm not doing justice to this because I just read it last night and I'm still a little excited about that story, but the that was the thing about alternative comics and stuff, right? You had adult themes that made it feel a little taboo at the time. I really wonder if people would feel that now with this not being that era anymore. You know what I mean? Like they've really pushed some things in mainstream comics and stuff, right? But there's adult themes. This guy's laying in bed smoking, talking to his ghost girlfriend, wanting to know more, little romance there and stuff, right? But I was like, that is just a fantastic concept, man. And some of the art in this is just fantastic. So, first we've been catching up on Grendel, and I've had a few issues of Grimjack. I've seen Grimjack pop up in like a Crossroads miniseries that I think I have around here. Yeah, it's funny that I have that. Things like this that I picked up over the years. There's some Grimjack in there with Nexus and stuff like that. But yeah, to be able to sit down and have a bulk of them to read and just to get through it and stuff, man. Yeah, I'm down. I heard this might have been a TV show at some point. I don't know. Maybe that's why they started doing the omnibus again and stuff, right? But I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to track down the single issues or track down the omnibus. I don't know. We'll decide there. But it's fantastic. Fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. John Ostrander writing this is so much better than his Suicide Squad stuff, and his Suicide Squad stuff wasn't bad. You follow what I'm saying? Just you know. Oh, two more things to show, guys. Let me check all this out there. Only okay, I got you, Samaritan. I'll definitely update the wife on the Blue Ridge thing. Gray Man finished his Phantom Stranger run. Tom Mandrick is great. Gray Man apparently is right on it. Oh, but he's never read Graham Jack though. Okay. um, Listening to you this morning makes me think the childhood science fiction films and comics I enjoyed as a kid. The Silent Running, Time Bandits. Time Bandits is huge in this house. I'm just going to let you know. Anything Terry Gilliam, anything. Time Bandits had a huge influence. There was the Warriors. There was Over the Edge, Time Bandits, Blade Runner. A lot of movies had a huge influence on me. Outsiders and Time Bandits, I put right in there. I mean, anything Terry Gilliam. Next is Dreadstar, and of course American Flag. Yep. I need to find those Grimjacks. Yeah, I'm gonna track these omnibus down. They're fantastic. Ghost Girlfriend. I used to have an imaginary one like that back in the day. We all did. We all did, and I hope it wasn't the same girl, Gray Man. I really do. Okay, so Charlton66, check out his channel and things like that. He got a hold of me. We were able to work out things to where I didn't dig through my books to get the actual issues signed. I would have got issue 69 things signed, but on Free Comic Book Day, Charlton66 had a comic book shop that had Mark Hempel there for you Sandman guys and Breathtaker guys and a few other things, right? And he was able to get Mark Hempel to sign my trade of one of my second trades of the Sandman. The Kindly ones, you had to have been there, man, because his art is so fairy tale and bright like. Uh, it was the first time I really saw Sandman fans sort of get pissed, if that makes any sense, which I thought was fantastic. You know, this cracked me up. It took me a little bit of time to adjust because the characters actually look at you. That's the magic of the Kindly ones. So last thing we're going to show, I'm going to unbox these, right? But I follow certain creators on Facebook, right? Not so much on Twitter, but on Facebook, I like the guys who show their art and they show the older art. Rick Beach, I've been able to order some stuff off of him when he's popped up on Facebook, and he sent me like a gray shirt trade that he found a box of out in his garage or something, and he signs them and sends them to you. Fred Hembeck will post pictures of scans of his trading cards that he puts on eBay to let you know what's been listed. And then there's Steve Rude. Steve Rude, you just never know what you're going to get with him, which makes it interesting and stuff, right? So he'll get on there, and all of a sudden on eBay, for some reason, they put a bunch of stuff on eBay that they announced on Facebook, and you were able to order prints and stuff like that. I've already ordered stuff off him over the years and stuff, right? So one of the things that he was going to get is that if you know this channel, you know Goon was huge back in the day. I was a big Eric Powell guy. There's a video of me walking through my whole Goon collection, explaining Goon and showing my signatures and stuff, right? So Steve Rude did a cover for the Goon, and this was supposed to be sent to me signed. And of course, when you order, they'll send you extra things like little postcards and announcements and things like that. And I went through this, and I'm like, there's no signature. I took 3 or 4 pictures, contacted them on eBay the same day, and I was very polite, said this was probably a mistake. I showed them the pictures, and they said it was supposed to be signed, and they immediately fixed it on the spot. I got this 4 or 5 days later, and they told me to keep it as a reader copy. So not only did they make a little mistake, I bought from them over years, did a Kickstarter or 2 with them over the years, and knew that this was not typical of them. So I'm just showing you that words don't mean anything. It's actions. And they turned around and fixed it on the spot. She emailed me. I'm assuming it's his wife or his daughter or something doing all this stuff, right? But she immediately had him sign the book within 30 minutes of receiving my message, told me it was on the way, and went through all this. He went to all this to fix it. So now, yes, I had it signed on the inside cover, and I even got 8 more extras and little things. I love all this little stuff like this. So we'll show you what they sent me with it. This is what happens when you order things off this. Oh, and on eBay, the reason I got this is everybody was going after prints and original art and stuff like that. I got this for $5 with $5 shipping, and I ended up getting 2 books and only had to pay shipping once. So that was stuff. But This is the kind of stuff you get. I don't know what this is. Is this a sticker or a decal? It's Nexus in reverse, so I'm assuming this is probably some kind of decal. Um, this looks like stickers, but on paper edition. Probably his Kickstarter stuff. I love stuff like this. Kickstarter, right? Yeah, just little original art and stuff. I have a little old beat up short box where I just put in stuff like this, this little things like this that are fantastic. And of course, a big thank you for your purchase and tells you where he's at on Instagram and Facebook. And basically the same thing, but just different flyers and stuff like that. Space Opera, trade back. Yeah. So anyway, that is it, guys. Thanks for popping in on me. We're going to be doing things around the house today. We're going to try to stick around. I'm going to try to organize this room some more. Found a lot of great stuff over the few weeks. Time to try to get this stuff put up again. That's the part, that's the dark side of comics they don't talk about. Okay. Let's check out these comments and we're going to call it a day, man. All right. Mudane's bar stories sometimes are better than the main Grimjack stories. Noted. Noted there. I will definitely keep those in mind. Did you ever read Mark Hempel's Mars comic from the early 80s? First Comics published it. It just ran 12 issues, but it was good. No, and I've never even heard of it. So I will dig around and check that out. I've met Mark Hempel several times, I think twice at Baltimore Con and somewhere else. So I do have something. I think I don't know, I got a print or something. I got some stuff. I do have some stuff by him, but he's a very nice person. Um, Only read The Goon recently. Oh, the things I missed. I believe Hillbilly is more my jam, though. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, Hillbilly was awesome. If Eric Powell could have got his stuff out consistently, I really do think it would be more on the minds of people. You know what I mean? Thanks, Tony. Good seeing you too, Agor. Great to see everybody out here. Right. Take care, everyone. And thank you, Heller. Always cool to learn. Oh, great. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. Everybody have a great day. Be excellent to each other.